Hi, Aaron Samantha here, naturopathic doctor, with a new video on self-health tests. Tests that you can do at home. We're going to go through tests for flexibility, some strength, reaction time, and some other lifestyle factors. So why do we test? Why do we want to measure our health and different parameters of our health? It's to become aware, first of all, and to make sure that we have measurable outcomes and goals when we want to measure our progression. It's important for measuring against the norms, the normal data, if there are any available, and if anything lies outside or is of concern, you can follow that up with a health professional. It's important to do this also if you want to modify your plan, if something's not working, and consult when you need to get more advanced opinions. So as a disclaimer, always check with a health professional if you're going to drastically or significantly change your health program. All right, the first test we're going to do is a resting heart rate. Actually, this isn't a true resting heart rate. It's more of a random daytime heart rate because we've been active a bit in the day. You may have gone to work a bit. Anyways, you can measure your heart rate either by a wearable, Fitbits or other kind of things that measure your heart rate, or just by counting the seconds and your heartbeat, either carotid artery or at your wrist. So I'm going to check in with my watch and start timing for 30 seconds or less, or even 15 seconds, and my heartbeat. And mine's pretty dead on with the seconds, so 60 beats per minute. And that's a good indicator of how stressed you are, your fitness level, your recovery. Even if it gets too high, you can measure if there's concerns of cardiovascular issues or other kind of hypertensive issues. But I'll give you the ranges. Basically, during the day, you definitely want to be under 100. And probably for most of us, we're sitting at above 60. So probably around the 70 area is where our random heart rate measure would be during the day. When you get excited, obviously it goes up. And if you're a marathon runner, it's probably pretty low, maybe even under 60. So the heart rate, resting heart rate is a good test, a good measure to keep an eye on. First thing in the morning, during times of stress. And also we're going to talk next about how to measure your cardiorespiratory fitness by doing a heart rate measure during and after your test. Okay, now that we know our resting heart rate, we're going to test our heart rate under exertion. So I'm going to do a minute worth of exercise at a moderate intensity. I will be doing boxing punches for 1 minute. You can do this similar test on a treadmill, bike, on a stairs stepper, or treadmill, rower, whatever you wish, whatever apparatus you want. It's just a standardized test that you can do for 1 to several minutes actually, as long as you repeat it under the same conditions. So I'm going to do a minute of boxing. I'm going to set a metronome so I've got the same cadence that I can use at another time. I'm going to take my heart rate right after the exertion and then a minute after that to see how I recover. And that gives us a good idea of cardiorespiratory fitness. All right, so I've got my timer on for a minute, ready to go. I'm going to set my metronome at 22 beats per minute. That's a good moderate intensity. And here we go. Good. And now I'm going to time my heart rate. Good. So I got my beats per minute. It's 24 beats in 15 seconds. So we're looking at 96 beats per minute is my exercise heart rate. I've got my stopwatch going on a continuous timer. So in a few seconds, I'm going to retest to see my recovery time. Okay, we're coming up to the 1 minute mark post exercise. And we're going to redo our heart rate right about now. Good. So I got 16 beats in 15 seconds. So we're going to multiply that 4, and that comes out to 64 beats per minute. So we started with a post-exertion at 96 beats per minute. It came down to 64 beats per minute. So you want to retest on the same conditions and see how well you recover from your exertion to a minute after. Again, you can also do 2 minutes of exertion if you like, but measuring a minute to 2 minutes after is good to see your recovery rate. And that gives you a great idea of your cardiorespiratory fitness level and a lot of other healthy parameters. Here's another self-health test you can easily do at home. If you have a partner, this is a shoulder flexibility test. So what I'm going to do, it's like a back scratcher test. I'm going to try and reach down as far as I can with one arm, and with the other hand, I'm going to reach up, and you can measure that distance between your fingers, right? Like that. If you overlap, you can always try and measure that distance as well. But most people may not be able to overlap, so try and measure from your index to the other hand as well. Okay, so that's one side. Shake it out and switch around again and try the other side. So reaching back and reaching up. Usually the non-dominant side is, or the dominant arm reaching up, doesn't have as much flexibility. So that's an example, and it's a good stretch, right? You can actually see, stretch it out after and see how you can improve over time and really get your shoulder flexibility improved. If you don't have somebody to measure you, to use that ruler, there is another shoulder test that you can do at home. You do need a long broomstick or another piece of long ruler or stick so that you can do this test, depending on how flexible you are. Basically, you're going to measure the distance between your hands, whereby you can fully rotate your shoulders or your arms back into your body, obviously without bending your elbows or breaking the stick. So right now that's doable for me. I can maybe try a little closer and do it again. So I'll show you from the side, as long as I got enough room here. So it's a distance between your hands, right? So from here and back. So I don't know if I can go much closer. That's probably my maximum. Oh, no. So back to this measure, and that's what I measure next time I do the test after some flexibility work and other exercises. All right, moving on to another flexibility test. This is for your torso, and it involves twisting while standing still. So I've marked on the wall a line, and that's my midline. And I've aligned it with a crack on the mats here so that I can easily stand center line to that. So I'm back, my back is to the wall, and I'm going to be an arm's length away from the wall, and with that crack midline to my body. So I'm standing here. My arms are going to be out. I have a sticker so that I can place on the wall. My arms are going to be parallel with my shoulders, and I'm going to twist without lifting my feet off the ground. And I'm going to start twisting from my hips, keeping my arms parallel without shrinking that angle. I can touch the wall here just barely, and that's about as far as I can go without overreaching my arm or without collapsing that other arm. So So I'm going to put my sticker here and come back to the middle. So be careful with this. When you do this, you don't want to overreach with that arm and reach, because that opens up this angle here. You're no longer parallel. So really keep parallel with your shoulders and go only as far as you can without lifting your feet off the ground, and mark your spot on the wall. So turning to the right, this is where approximately my range of motion is. I'm going to take another sticker and do it on the left side. All right, so I'm going to do it on the left side now. Again, I've got a sticker in my hand. My hands are parallel. I'm not going to lift my feet off the ground. Torso turning. And just about there is where I can go without opening up my angle. And I'm going to put a sticker on the wall there. Good. So you measure this distance here, and you can see I have a discrepancy side to side. More range of motion going to my left than turning to my right. And again, if you need further consulting on why that is, you can always see a health professional, a fitness trainer, or a musculoskeletal professional about that. But things to work on. You can do that by different stretches. All right, so a good home measure to do to measure your back flexibility, twisting flexibility, obliques, and also down into the hip flexors. All right, moving along to another flexibility test. This is a crucial one for a lot of athletes. It's the Achilles and lower leg flexibility. So this is towards the wall. Excuse my beautiful toenails. I've been stomped on a few times with cleats, even recently. So this setup here is putting the knee against the wall and seeing how far your foot has to go back before the heel starts coming up. So I've got a ruler on the ground. I'm going to put my knee on the wall, and at this point my heel is firmly on the ground, so I'm going to move it back a tad, put my knee against the wall, so that's still good, even more, and I can still touch. That's too much. I feel my heel coming up, so I'm going to sneak it in a bit. A little too much again, so right about there. That's my max. So I'm going to measure that on the ruler, and I can compare that to some normative data which we can post for you. So I am 12 centimeters away from the wall on my left foot. Same thing with the right. Knee towards the wall. Oh, so we can see my right is a little stiffer than my left, my dominant side. So there we go. That works. That's probably my limit. Again, I'm going to mark that, and we're at about almost 10.5 centimeters. 10.5 centimeters on the right and 12 on the left. So that's a good sign that maybe my right needs a little more stretching, and if not, some other work as well. All right, so this next stretch is the sit and reach, or the bend and reach. Again, be careful. If you have any back problems, knee problems, go into this gently. Don't jump into this. Don't bounce into this. If you want to keep a straight back for your back integrity, you can do so, but you are allowed to round your back, and you're going to direct your hands towards the ground and see how far you get. So here we go. So some people may not be able to touch the ground. That's fine. You can have somebody measure this, or if you have a ruler, you can simply track on a ruler. If you're more flexible and you can round your back without any issues or pain, you can go ahead and either touch the ground or see how far you can get to putting your hands on the ground. A general rule of thumb is if you're within a few centimeters of the ground, you're doing pretty good. If you're far, then obviously you have some work to do in your back health and lower leg health. And if you can put your whole hands on the ground, then you're probably pretty flexible, and yeah, you can move on to other strengthening and stretching exercises. So a good measure for the hamstrings and the back health. All right, moving along to another good baseline health test. This is waist girth. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with this, but you can do this over your shirt. Basically, you want to landmark by the top of your hips and the bottom of your ribs, the midpoint between. Some people just pick the umbilicus. You can do that as well, but that sometimes moves around with weight loss or weight gain. So we're going to take midpoint between the ribs and the top of the hips, and we're going to hip bones, and we're going to measure that. So coming right around. And usually if you have somebody else doing this, you can relax your hands on your side while you do this. So as much as you can, try and breathe and relax. And there's your measurement there. So waist girth is really important and has valuable predictive measures for all-cause mortality and some morbidity conditions like hypertension and cardiovascular and other things like that. So a good one to measure along with the other measurements you have. Okay, another important test is the balance test. This is great to figure out our proprioception or our ability to respond to different floor or ground relief, as well as prevent falls and other injuries like that. So our eyes are going to be closed. We're going to be standing on one leg. Our other knee is going to be up and our hands can be out. But as soon as you waver too much, especially if you put a foot down, then we stop the time. So I cap it off at about 30 seconds. I'm going to start with my left and I'm going to close my eyes. All right, and I check my time and I'll log that down. So that's a good example of doing it with your eyes closed. Again, if you can't do it with your eyes closed, if that makes you uncomfortable, you can try it just with your eyes open and do it like that until you're comfortable. And then repeat the test on your right side, on your other foot. Again, if you can, do it with your eyes closed and time to see how long you can do it. All right, this next test is a reflex test. We're going to use the ruler drop test, and you can do this with a partner. You're going to stand with your arm out perpendicular to your body, shoulder height. Your thumb and index are 90 degrees, and the ruler is going to be held at your thumb level, and the partner is not going to tell you when they're going to drop it, and you're going to see how fast you can clamp your hand on the ruler. And here we go. So you can do this several times to test, but for my right hand, and you can see if there's a left-right discrepancy, you measure, I'm at 14 centimeters from the bottom being 0 to 14, and you can see how fast your reflex is. So try this on both sides and see how mentally focused or your acuity is. All right, this is a coordination and a bit of agility test, and also focus concentration. It's a ball wall toss. So we've got our tennis ball. I'm a meter away from the wall, and we're going to alternate tossing the ball from right to left, and we're going to time it for a minute. So let's get to a timer. Oops, and reset. And here we go. Whoop. Back to here. Here we go. Keep count. If it drops, you can't count that bounce or that catch. It's every time you successfully catch it. All right, good. So you can chart your time. We'll give you a table of normative times, but always compare to your own times and see if you can improve that. Okay, so I presented to you some great health tests that you can do at home. Good to chart them down on a chart and monitor them on, maybe every 2 weeks, or have goals of a month and monitor from there to see your progress, to see how you relate to the norm, and also to kind of not diagnose, but just self-test to be self-aware. And you can follow that up if you're finding complications, if you're not progressing well with a health professional. Obviously, there's a lot of apps and wearables out there. Another self-monitoring test that I like to use is just a simple tracker. So we have one on my website to track your servings of vegetables, your fitness, quality of life subjective scale, and stress. So 4 modifiable health factors that really affect your health. You can track on my website as well. Just keeping a journal, and it doesn't have to be a very specific to the gram measurements of your nutrition, but nutritions and symptoms. So sleep, stress, mood, digestive, pain, things like that. It's good to keep a journal. You don't have to do every minute of the day, but if something changes, write it down. Have a journal book or online journal that you can use to track your health. So other wearables as well, obviously, are very popular for everything from heart rate variability to sleep. Very valuable information in these. If you want help into monitoring and tracking your health and someone to look it over, you can check in with me or another health professional, and you can get further testing, some high-end testing that is also valuable, like for your resting metabolic rate, your VO2 max, your body composition, fluids, and bone mineral density and things like that. You can go on to do some more interesting labs, be it hormone or circadian rhythm, even genetic testing. So these are all things that you can look into further. Drop me a line if you're interested, and we'll see you next time for another health video.